Arrow,
What's up?
what's up, my friend? All right, I was able to switch you. I'll send you the thing for Thursday.
Excellent.
I think I made it like
9:30.
I don't know what is that what it was for
Yeah.
like 10 minutes or
Yeah,
whatever. So,
yeah.
all right, cool deal. Here's Mark. Take it away, Arrow.
Good morning, Mark. How are you doing today?
Arrow, I am outstanding. How are you, sir?
Dude, you're using words that I live by. When you say you're outstanding, that means that's a daily discipline right there, sir.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And it's uncommon, right? So people usually start their day and they immediately, get plugged into the negative stuff. And part of the warrior discipline of being uncommon is to curate your mind and your thoughts, first thing in the morning. I call that winning in the mind before you step foot in the battlefield.
And winning is a choice, right, Mark?
Winning's a choice. Yeah, uncommon, simple principles for an extraordinary life. That the idea is to bring that choice, that autonomy back to people, right? Mm-hmm. So people are kind of trapped in this kind of cycle of negativity and glued to their TV and news. And I have this saying in my community: if you're not training your mind, someone else is training it for you.
Oh,
and that's going to lead to the kind of results you see in the world right now. So you got to take control of your mind, and you've got to start to train it, and that requires you to do it multidimensionally: physically, mentally, emotionally, intuitionally, and spiritually.
And that's the reason why I will sit down and have conversations with people and say, "Who are you working for?" "Well, I'm working for me." "Really? Can I see what you're?" Yeah, it's like, tell me more, because I don't think you're working for you.
No, not at all. You're right. And, I think that everyone's full of that fear and uncertainty right now. We call it VUCA in the SEALs. And how do you navigate VUCA? You've got to basically find the center in the storm, and that center is inside of you. And, we're also biased to look outside of us for things that we want in the world, and you're never going to find it. You're always going to be chasing the shiny ball. You're always going to be working for the man, so you can find that unlimited potential by learning to turn within. But there's a distinct methodology or path that's been missing in kind of Western culture. And I learned it partly through the SEALs, partly through, Zen meditation, which I started at 21. But there's a distinctive path and methodology to follow to find that complete autonomy, which is experienced as like raw potential and creativity, intuitiveness, and peace of mind. And that's what Uncommon is really about.
One of the things, I call myself a silent wolf only because I stand on the sidelines and I watch. I learned that in martial arts. You learn more from the sidelines. Yep. You call yourself a warrior monk. My God, how did you grow into that name and keep it activated?
Well, through training, Arrow. Again, it's a daily commitment, and you don't have to be a Navy SEAL to have the training discipline of a Navy SEAL. It's not hard. It actually, as you know, through the martial arts, once you kind of overcome the initial resistance, it's like weightlifting, then the training becomes really joyful, and eventually you just can't do without. You won't do without it. It's like as important as eating and sleeping. And I think that's what I want to teach people, is like with a little bit of training, starting, the moment you wake up, your morning ritual, and then how you approach your day, right? That's training. And developing this witnessing awareness that you're talking about is a game changer, so that you can be much more aware and take that autonomy back. So you're not in a constant state of reaction. And of course, the reaction is always going to be negative, and it's always going to be a limited or contracted response. And so to develop that capacity to have that kind of curious engagement without getting sucked into all the dramas, that's uncommon.
This is the challenge that I run into with people that are trying to make that change. They don't like the change because it might mean losing friends or losing something in their life. So they go back to their old habits. And it's like, man, you can't do that. You got to move through that mountain.
That's right. That's funny you say that. In fact, I call them the 5 mountains. The 5 sections of the book are the 5 mountains: physical mountain, mental, emotional, intuitional, and spiritual. And they do feel like climbing a mountain initially. But again, for those of us who've ever climbed a mountain, it's like it is worth the effort. You just put one foot in front of the other. I mean, you're going to put that foot somewhere. So why not put it somewhere in a positive direction that's going to lead you to higher plateaus, higher perspectives, and greater potential? And everyone has this capacity. I don't care how busy you think you are. You're going to use your time in some way. So why not use it in a way that's going to develop you, to give you control back, and to give you kind of the life that you deserve? It's completely possible.
How did you get control of making silence sacred? Because so many people fear silence.
It's because they've been trained to be distracted, right? And now with the technologies that we have, right, it seems impossible for a lot of people, but it's just training, right? If you're not training your mind, someone else is training it for you. So here's the thing. If you can take control back of your mind, then you will naturally find that the times in silence and sitting in contemplation and meditation and reflection are actually the most joyous times of your day. And that's where you recharge your batteries. It's where you come back to your center. And it's where you can tap into that unlimited potential. I tell you what, all of my good ideas, Arrow, come when I'm sitting in silence and sitting in quiet. I'm sure yours as well, right? But, people they're not conditioned to do that. And our culture is set up to keep people distracted and overcommitted. And really, it's up to us individually to take that control back. No one's going to give it to you. Right? They're just going to keep taking.
The book we're talking about is Uncommon. Let me ask you a question. I do a thing called defragging, which means I ask myself the questions, then I question the answers. In reading your book, I feel like that you do the same exact thing. You ask those questions, and you go in there, and you get the answers.
That's right. I believe that if you can ask a question, you already have the answer. But it's hidden from your view because you're looking for it out there. So you train yourself to be able to sit in silence and to ask the question. And then, miraculously almost, it's revealed to you. I mean, this is how I led myself into the SEAL teams. I was actually a CPA working for Coopers and Lybrand in New York City, but I was fortunate enough to have found a martial arts master who was masquerading also as a Zen master. And so I started studying Zen meditation. Meditation is simply training your mind.
Yes.
And through the process of training my mind, I literally, it was revealed to me that I was meant to be a warrior. And then the SEALs were revealed to me. I wasn't like a kid these days who grew up watching SEAL Team on TV, We didn't have anything back then in the 80s. SEALs were a completely secret organization. But it was sitting on that meditation bench that led me to the SEALs. And if I hadn't done that, we wouldn't be having this conversation today.
One of the things that you put focus on is Kokoro yoga. I'm into Nidra for my meditation, but the Kokoro, you give us an insight on this because it's not an American word or a Western word.
Right. Kokoro. I think either one is appropriate. It means to merge your heart and mind into your actions, or it could also mean whole mind. And we in the West have like we'll call a split mind. Yep. Split mind is where you're completely disconnected from that witnessing awareness, the awareness that knows that you're aware. And so Kokoro basically is a methodology of integrated development that reintegrates and heals that split mind, so you experience life as whole mind. And that's what I mean by uncommon. It's uncommon to have whole mind, but it's our birthright. And so there is a path, a process, a developmental model now to reintegrate and to experience whole mind. And whole mind, the experience of whole mind is one of, the world out there is what it is, but it is what it is because it's a reflection of everyone's consciousness or everyone's mind playing out. And it's all very negative because these minds are trained to be negative and fearful. And so whole mind experiences no fear, experiences no uncertainty, no doubt. It just knows the right thing to do at the right time. That's where another word comes in I use often. It's called shibumi, effortless perfection. So whole mind, you experience that effortless perfection, spontaneous creativity and intuitiveness. Just know the right thing to do at the right time for the right reason.
Are people afraid of their minds? And the reason why is because I love the fact that you introduce so many readers and people who are trying to change their lives to the 20 times mind power. And right away I'm going, how many people are going to be afraid of their own mind power?
Yeah, you're right. But again, they're afraid of it because they haven't taken the time to investigate it.
Yep.
Right? The unexamined mind, the unexamined life is not worth living. I think Socrates said that. It sounds kind of harsh, but he was trying to make a point. And how do you examine your mind? You don't do it by racing around, being the helicopter parent or being the perfect executive or entrepreneur. Those things will happen, but you've got to take the time to, slow down, sit down, and to inquire, right? To look within. And that requires a specific set of practices, starting with physical health, right? You can't develop your mind if your body is unhealthy, because if your body is unhealthy, your brain is unhealthy. So, that's why I start out with, I have 5 sections of the book: physical, mental, emotional, intuitional, and spiritual mountains, I call them. But it starts with the physical to get that, get the body, get the structure healthy. And as that gets healthy, that begins the process of training the mind through disciplined practices. Just like when you wake up in the morning, one of the core practices is to win in your mind before you step foot in the battlefield. And that practice is, your morning ritual, curating the quality of your thoughts, conditioning your mind to be positive and optimistic. And then doing that kind of work through breath work and through meditation and visualization so that that when you enter that day, you've already won it.
Yeah. Oh, my God. Where can people go to find out more about you, Mark? Because I want them to not only read this book, but I want them to activate every single thing that you are teaching us.
Man, I appreciate that. Yeah, the book would lead you there, but you can learn more about me at markdevine.com, or my social media is at Real Mark Devine. And the training that I'm talking about, that the whole book is kind of based upon, we call Unbeatable Mind.
Yep.
And there's a website, unbeatablemindcom, that has kind of the entry port for that.
Wow. You got to come back to this show anytime in the future. The door is always going to be open for you, Mark.
Thank you very much, sir. I really appreciate you. Have a great day.
Well, you be brilliant today, all right?
I will. You as well.
Yes,
Booyah.
sir. Yes, sir.
Arrow Collins, he is in Charlotte. Hello, Arrow. I don't know if you can hear me. You got your mic muted. Hello,
there we
Arrow.
go. How are you guys doing today?
There you go. Good. How are you?
Fantastic.
Doing good. Good morning.
Good morning, sir. I can't imagine where your mind is growing and what you're doing inside your heart right now, because the Marines will always tell you it's never a former Marine. It's always a Marine. And your life and your journey has got to be the same way. You're always on.
Yeah, I'd like to think so. There's my heart is always in, what I used to do as a federal agent, as an investigator, having worked for the Secret Service. Certainly, watching that event on that day, I was like, "Wow, what just happened here? This is surreal."
Yeah. One of the RNC has been here in Charlotte, so I know what they did with the outer perimeter and what we couldn't do as regular civilians. So that even if it was a speech or a lecture right there, it's on the outer perimeter. It was wide open.
Sure. That's what the information appears to be at this point. Okay. It's coming in, in bits and pieces. But my ultimate reaction, once I learned that the shooter was on a rooftop 150 yards from podium, which was in a clear line of sight, that's really what we might call a chip shot with a long arm. It's not a difficult shot to make. So my question was, why wasn't there a uniformed law enforcement officer arms on the top of that roof?
Right.
Okay, not just during the speech, but hours before the president was to arrive. Keep in mind, they're not only securing the president, they're securing the venue so that the people in the venue cannot be harmed. So I want to know why there wasn't someone on that roof 2 hours in advance, at least.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's interesting you bring that up, because I know that where iHeartRadio was over on Billy Graham Parkway, when the president came to Charlotte, anytime, any president, what would happen is they would go all the way down the Billy Graham Parkway to secure every single building. That's how hard of work that you guys are expected to do.
Yeah, okay, so that's interesting, because the president does receive additional personnel and additional assets. So that is one slight discrepancy. However, the outer perimeter here, which is traditionally, not in all cases, but traditionally handled by local law enforcement, but in coordination with the Secret Service. In other words, Secret Service saying to them, we really need this secured, this part of the outer perimeter. So it's the local law enforcement personnel providing the personnel, but it's not like the Secret Service doesn't contribute to it. Mm-hmm. And that's where it's critically important to understand what was supposed to be done with that building. We now know through eyewitness accounts and different reporting that there were officers around that building. And my question is, what were they looking at? How was this individual able to climb that roof? I'll put it to you this way. If you have 50 poststanders, whether that's in the interior of the venue and the outside, if there's one or two that doesn't execute their duties responsibly or correctly, that's your weak link. Mm-hmm. And those weak links can cause the whole plan to come down. And that's what happened that day. I mean, at least in terms of no one getting to this guy.
This is going to play out over and over for the rest of our lives. And one of the things my wife and I openly discussed is this the new grassy knoll? Because, I mean, to be on that building, and instantly I went back to JFK.
Well, I don't know if it's the grassy knoll in that context because, well, fortunately, and for our country, former President Trump, wasn't killed in this instance.
Right.
The shot came from there. Of course, this is America, and there's a tremendous amount of information flowing. I'm sure there'll be conspiracy theories regarding this, but we have to wait for the FBI to do their investigation. They're professionals. I'm sure they're also doing very diligent investigation. It's going to take some time because there's a lot of interviews that have to be conducted here. So I don't think it's the new grassy knoll, but someone might suggest otherwise.
Yeah. I'm just glad that you're taking the time to educate listeners, because all we're getting are headlines from professional announcers, and your reality and helping us understand this is so important right now.
Well, it's a pleasure to contribute in any way that I possibly can, but it's like a lot of situations, there's nuance that needs to be parsed through here. It's easy to draw a conclusion. One, we have to separate fact from fiction, right? We want the truth. We don't want to just come up with a headline. We don't want to just come up with a talking point that takes on a life of its own. And that's why this investigation is so important, to get to what happened here and to correct that. Mm-hmm. We wish this never happened, because right. This is a game changer. The show's going to go on, though. The campaign events are not going to stop. I can't see that happen between now and November. But I would just caution people from reaching hard conclusions based on limited information. Yep. Let's all keep a clear head and be what I like to call, what I tell my students, remain intellectually curious and intellectually honest throughout the process.
Wow. You got to come back to this show anytime in the future, Anthony, because I love your journey. I love where your heart is, and you just share so much with us.
And I'd love to come back anytime you request. Just let me know. It's been a pleasure.
You be brilliant today, all right?
All right. Thank you, sir. You have a great day.
Thank you. Hello and good morning, everybody.
Hi, is this Arrow?
Yes, it is.
Hi, I am calling to connect you with Susan for the radio tour.
Absolutely. I know you're going to need a date, so let me go to my program log here.
Let me just let know I have you on the line, and whenever they're ready for you.
I'm ready to rock it, and it does post on the 21st, which is this Sunday.
Okay, this is going to post
on Sunday the 21st.
First of
this month.
Perfect. I will do that right now.
Excellent.
I will let them know, and they are ready for you. I'm going to join you into this radio tour. Please stand by.
And Arrow has joined.
Hello and good morning, Susan.
Hello.
How are you today?
I'm great, thank you. How are you?
Absolutely fantastic, and very excited to share a conversation with you, because I see this book, Discovering Magic in Everyday Life, as being an open door. I mean, for believers, for non-believers, those in question, those seeking, it's such an open door.
Oh, I so appreciate that. That's what I was hoping it would feel like to people.
When you release words like this onto a page, because I truly believe that a seed becomes the tree becomes the paper we use, and then that becomes books. Part of your journey on this was to reach people. What did you experience on your side of the journey?
Well, a lot of ups and downs, because we're living through a very chaotic and difficult time. But what I experienced is that so many people from so many different traditions have a whole lot in common. And that if we can focus on what we have in common first, then we're better able to talk about the differences with more understanding and more empathy. And I don't mean this to sound woo-woo. Of course, we've got a lot of differences, and of course, there are a lot of problems in the world. But there's also an awful lot of good.
One of the things that you cover is the children and what they're going through, and we have to have more empathy for them, because even with my own grandchildren, I don't understand why they stress out so much. But you're right. What is the common thing? We all stress out. Let's talk about it.
That's right. Well, stress is contagious, right?
Oh.
So if the parents are stressed out, if the teachers are stressed out, if their caregivers are stressed out, their stress, the adult stress, is contagious, and the kids just soak it up. So we have to be aware of what the effect of our own actions and relationships, which is why it's so important that adults really practice stabilizing themselves, regulating themselves, and focusing not just on the bad stuff, but also on the good.
And you give us 50 practical tools. I mean, this is one of those things where I would like to sit down with my family as well as my grandchildren, and we each have our own interpretation of it, and let's talk about it. But I love the fact that you are so honest with us with these practical tools.
Well, thank you. You know, everybody resonates with something different. Some people want something that moves. Some people are introverts, some people are extroverts. So what I hope with this book is people can page through it, see what lands with them, and try that first. And then once they have that experience, then they get a taste of the benefits of this kind of inner work, and then they can go further and more deep.
Emotional balance is really on the hot stove right now because people don't understand how to find a place of balance. And you really open up the door on that one.
Yeah, we just don't know. I wish as a young mom I had known more about how the nervous system works. And so just teaching people not to beat up themselves because their nervous systems go on high alert. And when our nervous systems are on high alert, our perspectives narrow, our energy is focused into our bodies so that we can fight or we can flee or we freeze. And when we ground ourselves with awareness-based strategies, then our perspective can broaden. And as our perspective broadens, we get to see all the different sides of a story and view what's happening with some kindness and compassion.
Is it wrong of me to have conversations with people when they sit there and they celebrate their victories in life, and then I go up to them and I'll go, so are you grateful? And what are you grateful for? And then I'll come back with, but are you mindful of what you've just celebrated in victory?
Yeah, I think that those are excellent questions, right? Because appreciation is a huge practice, and it's scientifically shown to have a big difference in people's lives. And it's a great grounding strategy, you know, as far as regulating. So appreciation is key. And also awareness is key, which is what we're talking about with mindfulness. Awareness and appreciation, those are two things that are real game changers.
The book we're talking about is Discovering Magic in Everyday Life. Something is happening when it comes to these VR goggles that people, they get them for games and things. I happen to pick up one that went to an app that's called Float, and they're using it for meditation. But I do wonder, Susan, is that when we see things visually like that in the digital devices, are we not injuring our mind? Shouldn't it be a cleared mind and a cleared heart?
Well, I think it's tough to clear things.
Yeah.
Because whatever is in there, it's hard to get rid of things. But we can have an open mind and an open heart that allows for the full catastrophe and still can take in the good. And I think that that's the key. I think all of the electronic devices, they might have a place as a tool that is useful, but it doesn't replace learning how to just really take a moment and take a look around you and really focus on something that captures your attention and lets everything seem a whole lot bigger and grander than our own problems.
I would love to be a fly on the wall when it comes to readers discovering something that you plant inside these pages, and that is the natural movement of your mind. So many people do not understand that your mind is always in movement.
It is always moving. And if we try to stop it, it tends just to move more, just like a young child. But what we can do is we can become aware of the movement and then move our attention to something else. Something like the feeling of our feet on the ground or a beautiful flower in the garden or, the laughter of the children around us. And that helps us broaden our perspective again.
That is so interesting you say that, because I'll bring that up to many people. I'll go, so when you put your camera up in the air to take a picture, do you get the entire environment? And they go, no. So does your body. Your body doesn't get everything unless you're willing to accept all living things and everything that's in contact with your body.
That's right. And to see how they're all connected, right? How we're all connected to one another.
Yes. Why is it people fear that word enlightenment? Right away they think, oh, that's a religious thing. I'm not going there. But it's not. It is about the whole self.
It is. It's about the whole self, and enlightenment is available to everyone. Real world enlightenment is available to everyone all the time. I think it has developed a certain connotation that makes people think that they have to go off and meditate on a mountaintop for years at a time. And I think that's great. I certainly spend an awful lot of time meditating.
Yes.
But the point of meditating like that is to take what you learn on the cushion off and bring it into real life. And how many people do you know who have done a lot of meditation who have been unable to make that transition? So if we can take short moments of awareness, drop them in throughout our day, I think people will see a big difference in how their life feels and the ripple effect of that on the people around them.
Wouldn't you also say that we should learn to trust our stream thinking? In other words, our moment of now. Trust it. Don't challenge it.
Yeah, and listen to it.
Yes.
We need to listen to ourselves and be kind to ourselves. We're also hard on ourselves.
Judgment. There's always got to be judgment somewhere coming from this body.
That's right. That's right. And that's just, we can accept that. That's a natural part of the way we're wired. But just because our inner critic is saying something doesn't mean it's true.
Does this book come with a website? Because you know people are going to come through this book. And first of all, I invite listeners to grab a yellow highlighter and highlight the areas that really step inside your heart. And then is there some place where they can go to start activating it? Because this is a book of activation.
Well, thank you. The website, my website, SusanKaiserGreenland.com, has lots and lots of videos and audios and downloads, and there's a newsletter that's practice-based that will reinforce this type of work. And that's very, very helpful. It's helpful to have a community of people fall asleep when they're meditating. I bet you were tired and could use the sleep. So no reason to beat yourself up when you fall asleep. I mean, people have meditated for decades fall asleep. And no reason to beat yourself up if just that day you can't sit still because there's too much going on. The point is just setting the intention and going back and doing the best you can, a little bit at a time, over and over again, and you'll see the results.
You got to come back to this show anytime in the future, Susan. The door is always going to be open for you.
Thank you. I so appreciate that.
Well, you be brilliant today, okay?
Thank you. You too. I thank you very much.
You bet.
My favorite shaman.
What's going on, Rockstar?
Hey, buddy, he's all yours. You can take him till about hard out at 25.
Excellent. Good morning, Patrick. How are you doing today?
I'm good, man. How you doing?
Absolutely fantastic. I got to tell you, I've experienced this movie. Oh, my God. I love the way that you allow the viewer and those that will experience it the opportunity to have sides and to have different points of view and still get along in a way.
Oh, thank you so much. I know I'll thank you for Ian Ebright, the writer-director as well. It's exactly what he was hoping to get when we made this.
Well, it opened up my heart because, I mean, there were so many times I would sit there, I would agree, I would disagree, I would sit there, and I got so much into the debating, it just blew me away.
Yeah, well, you know, he wrote these long debates, and as an actor, you look at that and you go, oh, this is a trap. The audience is going to stick with you. But between working with Kaylee Rhodes as the counter debater and also with the editor who edited it so well, it really does keep you engaged because the things that he's talking about, as you say, touch your heart and touch your brain and make you go like, well, now, wait a second. Well, that's interesting. And that's why it was really fun to play.
Well, and because of the different views as well. You know, I mean, either you believed in God or you didn't believe in God. It didn't matter. You got 2 points of views there.
Yeah. And you know what was great about Kaylee is, you know, she's on the side of enumerating God. Mm-hmm. It's not heavy-handed, which is great. It's not this heavy-handed evangelical Christian sort of thing that you sort of see as a trope in a lot of films. Instead, it's very nuanced and it's very powerful. And what I find interesting is that Simon really doesn't allow his heart to be open to her debate because he's just interested in the actual mechanics of destroying her as a debate opponent. It doesn't matter that they're talking to God, I think, to him. Whatever they're talking about,
he's the opposition, and he's going to intellectually try to dismantle her argument.
Oh, see, there were many times I was so on Simon's side in the way that I just loved his strength and what you brought into that character for that strength. I mean, the body language itself really allows the viewer to see, hey, when you speak words, get the body involved in your conversation.
Oh, absolutely. Well, as an actor, I know that, and coming from the stage, I also know that. It's how you move and how you present yourself matters so much. And Simon is nothing if not arrogant and self-entitled. He definitely thinks he's the smartest guy in the room, no matter where he walks. So, I'm sorry that I'm so easily, I can play that so easily.
You talk about coming from the stage. Last night when my wife and I were experiencing the movie, I looked at her and I said, I want to see this on a live stage somewhere because I really think this would go great in a theater.
Oh, wow. That's interesting. What was fun about doing the debates is that, it was filmed in a theater. The only difference is there was cameras sitting out in the audience, and that really lent itself a freshness to it, being there, having the space between me and Kaylee, and also having the back of the house to project to. It allows you to be more performative.
Mm-hmm. And the lighting. Oh, my God. You guys, the lighting on that, because it really drew you, the people on the camera knew that we needed to be focused in on what you were doing.
AJ Marston was our DP, and he was so good in making it a delicious drawing in factor. When I saw it on the big screen, I really was, like anything, to be honest, to be anything as a narcissistic actor, you go to see something you've done, you're like, why are they showing my shoulder? Why is it not all about me? That's just, I'll call myself out on that. But what was great about this was what a palette they had colored the film with.
Yeah.
Like it was just rich. And to your point, draws you into the speakers and whatnot. And I know that they consciously made different camera choices for each of the debates. As we move into the third debate, we're now right up in each other's grills with the camera, as opposed to the first one when we're back as an audience member, which I think really helps lends itself to it.
See, I call that texture. Movie making has texture in it. And otherwise you're right. We might have tuned out by the third time that there was a debate. It was all different every single time.
Yeah, well, Ian talked about that, and production design talked about that. And, as an actor, I've learned to stay in my lane in terms of, like, unless they're asking my opinion, which rarely they're not, I'm not here for the overall. I'm not the director. I'm not the producer. My job is to do Simon and bounce off the other characters in that world. And I try and stick to that, which is why it's always a great surprise and reward to see the finished product, to go like, oh, right, I'm just a piece of this. And it's great to collaborate on something. You know what I mean? I say that because it is true. You're like, oh, I didn't realize that, and it's good. It's good that way.
One of the things that my wife and I talked about in watching the movie, The Way We Speak, is the fact that it reminds me, it was almost like I was screaming for, I want this to be a binge watching series. I want 9 parts to this because I don't want Simon to go away. I want his character to take on other people in other debates. I want to know more about him.
Oh, I love that. I will pass that on to Ian without a doubt, because I'm sure he's percolated some ideas about that. I think the way the film sort of resolves itself at the moment, it's still a launching pad for other things to come, without a doubt. And I think it doesn't tell the audience what to feel. It allows them to make a choice of what they're going to take away from it. And that's one of the best things about it, I think.
That is so true. It's very interactive. You're absolutely right about that, because you sit there and you go from side to side to side, and it gets you involved emotionally.
Yeah. And that's the best kind of engagement that you can have with art. And especially, spoiler alert, there's no guns and nobody's, superheroes in this, which is what is great about it. It's a noisy, corrosive world that's 24/7 on our space communicators. And it's nice to go see a film, whether it's at your couch or in the theater, of The Way We Speak, because it allows you a respite from that velocity of information, and instead allows you to go inward to make some choices intellectually and with your heart about what you think and feel.
When a script like this arrives, because it is so in-depth, how do you get the interpretation? I would be on the phone with them saying, please explain to me what's going on here, because my mind is seeing this.
Oh, that's exactly what I read the script, and I was like, oh, Ian's written the script about something. He's trying to say something. So I called him up and I said, I see you're trying to say something. I don't know what it is. But I'm on board for trying to discover and illuminate it. And he's like, great. Because he goes, frankly, I'm not sure either. So that's what you do. You all get together on day one. You say, like, I think we're going to tell this tale. And you don't really know until you finally show it to an audience. And I think he was very successful. And I think we're really pleased with what we ended up coming up with.
Would you say that one of the invisible stars of the movie, The Way We Speak, is the fact that you are speaking and you're not using your thumbs to get a communication gap going on there?
Oh, yeah, without a doubt. I love the fact that technology plays a very, very small part in it. It only delivers a piece of information here or there. What we really get instead is heartfelt communication. I love the moderator played by Lowell because, you know, he sort of sits there as an arbiter for all of us saying, like, behave, here's the rules, and then behave if you're not behaving, and speaks for I like the fact that it takes place in a theater with lecterns in a sort of quote unquote old fashioned way.
And plus, on top of that, the influencers will see this movie, and I think what they're going to do is it's going to put them face to face instead of just doing something on social media. They're going to want to go out there and get physically involved with their debates rather than just, I'm just going to post them.
Oh, I think so. Look, the scourge of the internet is the fact that everybody has an opinion anonymously sitting in their pajamas at 11 o'clock at night. And there's no pushback. So you can throw out something and there's nobody there to push back immediately on what you posit as a fact or posit as a informed opinion. And that's what's exciting about watching the real-time pushback in The Way We Speak.
Can you imagine if you, Patrick, was the one that was on that stage and you were doing the debating and it came from your moments?
Oh, wow. Well, that's interesting because, unfortunately, there's probably more of me and Simon than I'm wishing to admit, a white guy of a certain age. And I will say this, it became apparent because when we were up on stage and I'm wearing my turtleneck and my suit and preening like a peacock and looking at my gray hair and my glasses, I look over and I see Kaylee Rhodes, who's, half as young and twice as pretty. And I was like, oh, no.
Yeah, because, one of the things that, first of all, they have all three debates. And what I loved about that, and first of all, I love the number 3. But what happens is it tells the viewer that the conversation isn't over yet. That you can walk away all you want, and which we do. But in this, you guys kept moving forward.
Yeah. I mean, it almost collapses, right? And then it doesn't. It keeps moving forward. And, Simon's avarice for at all costs. We begin the movie with, tragic news. And he's like, that sucks, but let's go anyways, And by getting to the third debate, we're finally we've now invested in the characters a little bit. And I think those close-ups and those little ticks that we see between them that are nonverbal are the things that really make that sing.
Yeah. I'm not going to spoil the ending but I'll tell you what, though, viewers and listeners are going to experience this, and it's going to create conversation because you either took a side, and I would love to sit down with a group of people and say, all right, let's talk about this movie, but we can't go that deep yet because I don't want to spoil it.
No, I understand, which is why I encourage you on July 23rd to get on Apple or any of your streaming on-demand platforms and take a look at it, because the movie ends up in a spot where you can go ahead. It doesn't tell you what to feel. It allows you to make your own decisions about that, and I think that'll be a great takeaway.
I'm glad you said Apple, because I wrote in my notes, I said, this has got that feeling of Apple. This is something that I would watch on my Apple app, and so I'm so glad that you reminded listeners that's where it is.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's my dad's birthday on July 23rd. Aww. So, do my dad a solid and rent his son's film. How about that?
Wouldn't you say that in writing this motion picture, The Way We Speak, is that you introduce a lot of people to the many different ways that you can speak the word? They always tell us in radio, there are 7 different ways to say the same sentence.
Oh, that's interesting. I've heard something similar to that in acting class, where we've done exercises where you say the same line in repetitive fashion, trying to milk out different meanings and whatnot. Yeah, there are different ways to speak, without a doubt, and different tactics you can use. Weapons, your words can be used as weapons. They can use as encouragement, But you also, in the midst of speaking, have to remember the other component of speaking, which is listening.
Yeah, yeah. Oh man, dude, I've been in more HR meetings because I was the written word that was being shared, and people would say, "Get in here, we got to talk. What are you trying to say here?" I swear to God, it's positive, and they're going, "No, that's not the way I'm reading it." Maybe that's the reason why I love this movie, is because you're physically using your words.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can see them affect us as they happen. You know, you can see them like arrows being shot at one another. Mm-hmm. And it's all depending, you know, you take a direct hit and then you figure out how you're going to counter, and how you counter, how you take that assault and counter says a lot about your character. It says a lot about Simon's character for sure. Well,
personally, how did you deal with the moments when the cameras were off and you filmed the debate? I mean, you get yourself so emotionally involved. That little moment when the lights go off, I just don't know what actors go through.
Oh, you know, I mean, that's part of the fun. It's part of the magic and the mystery and the pixie dust, right? Yeah. The good news is that you come in as strangers. I didn't know Kaylee. I didn't know Deanna. And all of a sudden, we're on stage doing this vulnerable stuff and doing all that, and then you find that magic. You find that personal thing. Part of being an actor is the ability to shut out everything and focus on your scene partner. And when you have a good scene partner, you get lost in that world, and that's that magic fun space. And hopefully, the camera can capture that. You know, that's what, if you're lucky.
Being a radio jock who's had team partners and things like that, eye contact is so important. So that's one of the things that I really paid attention to when you guys were debating during these 3 debates. I wanted to make sure that you were looking at each other in the eyes. And oh my God, you guys nailed that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. We relied on one another for that, without a doubt. And when, you know, we're shooting her or shooting me, the other one was full performance out. Nobody was phoning anything in. So having your scene partner off camera for those moments was equally important. And, you know, Kaylee and I would both, you know, do different things. It wasn't trying to like throw somebody off. It was just trying to add different color to evoke different reactions, because, you know, in the editing bay, sometimes you take things that may seem out of context when you're shooting them, but make sense for the film in post. So we also did that, which was really fun. You know, Kaylee came to play, and that made it all the difference in the world.
I'm a big stream thinker. That means that I usually speak and I write what's in my presence of right now. And one of the things that's displayed perfectly in this is the way that Simon would react. None of that was scripted out if this was Simon's real world. And that's what I love about people that go to debates, is the fact that you've got to act and react in the moment of what is right now.
Oh, yeah. No, debates are really exciting, actually, when they're done like that, because you see a nimbleness of thought and a nimbleness of action that counter stuff. And sometimes in a debate, you'll find that the quote unquote winner of the debate is not the side that you actually agree with. And that's when you know somebody's really good, right? When you end up saying like, well, actually, they make sense and they've turned you around.
You got to get your agent to get you to be the host of a competition, you know, like American Idol and things like that, except it's going to be all debaters, no musicians, no actors or anything like that. It's got to be 2 people debating every week, and it's a competition.
Okay, I love that, but first you have to line up what advertisers you're going to get for me, and then we'll have a show.
Oh, that darn business side of entertainment. Come on, Patrick.
Sorry, I know. Buzzkill.
So what did you learn? Because when you go into this project, you're still a student.
Oh, absolutely. Everything is a brand new learning experience. You know, it's first day of school. We sat down for that table read, and, you know, I had read the script and I talked to Ian, but I hadn't met the other actors, and you still don't know. And you're nervous and scared, and your ego's in the way and all of that stuff. And then you sit down, and then we all start reading the words. And as we read it, we were like, oh, things are crackling. Things are making sense. It's coming to life, which makes everybody at the table go like, oh, I'm glad I signed on for this, because there is something here. And basically it becomes this river that starts flowing. And then your job is to build a boat for the audience to sail on that river. And so you get excited about that. And, you know, I still get nervous. I get nervous before my auditions. I get nervous before work. And that's 30 years down the line and actually having a modicum of success. I don't think that'll ever leave me. I think that's just baked into the job description for me.
Speaking of leaving you, how much of Simon is still in you?
Well, unfortunately, I'm still a white guy over 50. And so therefore I'm, you know, And I run into that, I don't know when the last time you made a Huey Lewis in the News joke and had nobody respond to it, but that's,
I mean, do you sport the same glasses? Because to me, that was a fashion statement with those glasses.
With those glasses actually were my glasses.
Really? Oh my God.
Dude, it's an independent film. I brought my own wardrobe and wore my own glasses. And glasses are tricky with film because for the DP to shoot, you get light reflection and all that stuff. But Ian decided when he saw me reading with them, he goes, oh, we need to work that in. And the DP was like, those are prescription glasses. How are we going to? And so that became an added element where they had to shoot around, figure it out, and light the angle. There were some takes we would do, and all of a sudden we'd be halfway through, and they're like, cut. You can't have your head at that precise spot because the light's bouncing. But yeah, no, that was how much is Simon? Well, it was all my own wardrobe, so
that's so
more
cool.
than I care to admit.
July 23rd is when it begins to happen on your father's birthday. So congratulations on this movie and happy birthday to your dad.
Hey, thank you so much, man. I appreciate you taking time talking to me.
Well, please come back to this show anytime in the future, man. I love breaking down movies so I can get a better understanding as a viewer.
Yeah, no, I can tell. I appreciate it. We need more of you in the world.
Well, you be brilliant today, okay?
Thanks, man. Will do.
Thank you.